Postcards from Nebraska on RFD-TV, a program about rural life. This week, they are the hardest working migrant farm workers in America. Find out why the honeybee is an irreplaceable part of agriculture. Tractors are the pride and joy of many a man who works on the farm. But what about the farming ladies? Meet a Midwest woman who can take an old tractor and turn it into a work of art. Out in the Badlands of northwest Nebraska, discover a park where the original Midwest natives gathered millions of years ago. Plus, she's a third-generation mail carrier, bringing correspondence to the remotest of ranches in one of the largest counties in the country. It's all this week on Postcards from Nebraska.
During Nebraska's growing season, Nebraska is abuzz with the sound of migrant field workers, putting in endless hours, long days, endless weeks from dawn to dark. Moved from field to orchard, pasture to garden, they go where they're needed to produce food for the world's growing appetite. What's more, the tireless workers I'm thinking of work for nothing more than shelter and subsistence, without complaint, but with a stinging admonition for anyone who gets in their way. And this is a completely female workforce, each and every one of them a lady.
There are ants and different things that will pollinate a flower, but still a honeybee will do the best job for fruit trees.
And while there are wild bees that live in hollow tree trunks and barn walls, most of the bees are owned, put where the beekeepers want them and where the farmers need them.
Here's a queen bee, right here. That long one, you see her? That's her right there.
The long yellow tail.
Bob Werdekemper runs a beekeeping operation out of Beamer, Nebraska.
But most of the old timers all had 3 and 4 swarms of bees. That was just normally.
On the average farm, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, they all had 3 or 4. They got to raise their own honey.
Last year, Bob Werdekemper's bees produced nearly 50 tons of honey for him. I had bees at one time, and I looked like a samurai warrior when out there because they scared me half to death. But you work with your bare hands. You must get stung while you're doing that.
Well, yes, it's like my old friend always said. He said, does a mechanic ever get grease on his fingers? So it's the same thing. See, so.
Is it just a matter of getting used to it?
Well, you don't completely get used to it. That hurt, yeah.
Oh. Right out here.
Did you notice we smoked the hive on the bottom before we started? There's guard bees all the way along that bottom of that hive, so no bee from the other hive can come into that hive. See, they will not go from the other hive into there. So they keep them out because they all have their own smell. The smoke will calm the bees, and they'll keep them in a hive. Therefore, you won't get stung as often. But certain hives will be meaner, and you still can't get enough smoke in them.
When bees are moved long distances, hive and all, to new locations, the keeper smokes them to prevent them from swarming and flying away, to cut down on the danger to the beekeeper. Did you make any stops on your way to the field then?
Unless we have a truck problem.
What if you have to stop at a gas station?
We make sure we have gas before we leave. But like when we just haul around here, just a short haul, that's why we like to do it early in the morning and late in the evening when the bees aren't flying.
Does it ever make people nervous in town when you drive through with a load of bees?
Oh, yes, that's, yeah.
Look out, here comes Bob with his bees. Many imagine that the bee's only product is honey, but while bees are pulling nectar from millions and millions of flowers so they can make honey in their waxen hives, they're also pollinating apple trees, alfalfa, grapes, tomatoes, in fact, most of the flowers that produce our food.
This is solid honey in this comb. Boy, you know, this swarm could definitely swarm on
It's
us.
about ready to swarm.
Because look at all the male bees, and there's that many male bees in there, then we can have a problem.
The ruler of each hive is a female, the queen. So too is every worker. The males of each hive, drones, lounge about, eating, taking it easy, which would seem like the life of Riley, except for the fact that come fall, when supplies grow a little thin and there's no likely need for a new fertilized queen, most of the males of a hive are murdered, their corpses thrown out the front door onto the ground.
They may raise 4 or 5 queens in that hive. The first one to hatch will come out and sting the other ones when they're still in the cell yet, not hatching. She'll kill all the rest of the queens.
Complicated world out there for bees.
They'll kill a queen.
It's like an election. You can get unelected real quick.
They're just starting to move now. Yeah, see, a bee that, now there's a lot of pollen in this right here now.
So the bees, the workers carry that back to the hive then?
This will be on their legs, real heavy.
What I love about things like bees is they really don't care much about man and his problems one way or another. Elections, family difficulties, war, wind and weather, nothing stands in their way for very long. They've got places to go and things to do, and they're going to go there and they're going to do them. A pretty good philosophy of life.
Up next on Postcards from Nebraska,
Carol works out of one stall of her family's 2-stall garage near Grand Island, Nebraska, about a half an hour from my own farm near Dannebrog. She loves old tractors too, and if anything, she's better with a socket wrench or screwdriver than I am. This is my shop. This is where I relax. I have enough tools and equipment to do almost anything out here. Power tools, compressor, welding setup, hoists, hand tools, you know, men's stuff. I work on old tractors, Ellis-Chalmers tractors. I love these machines. While I'm working on them, I think about the men who spent endless hours sitting on these things during their working lives. I think our connection with these machines is what speaks to our brotherhood. Finding battered hulks like this along Nebraska's back roads inspired me to write a book, Old Tractors and the Men Who Love Them. Judging from the reaction, I'd say I struck a sympathetic chord in the hearts of men all across this country, men who love old tractors as much as I do. Apparently, I struck a few sour notes too. What about Carol Panowich, people asked me. Carol's Ellises make yours look pathetic. And I decided to see for myself. They were right. You call this a ladies' tractor. What exactly is a ladies' tractor?
It's a tractor that a lady can handle. I can crank start it myself. I can basically do anything with it that I want. It's not too big that I can't handle it.
But you put a lot of work and money into this thing. It's an investment. What is your return from it?
The pleasure of going to the antique tractor shows, talking to guys like you, guys that are interested in tractors that see a woman crank start it. You know, they stand there when you do get it started, they, wow, you know, you can do that by yourself.
Carol works out of one stall of her family's 2-stall garage near Grand Island, Nebraska, about a half an hour from my own farm near Dannebrog. She loves old tractors too, and if anything, she's better with a socket wrench or screwdriver than I am. When men talk about their tractors, it's really almost like a love affair, talking about her and she. And
This is she and her to me.
Yeah, but you have a feeling for this tractor
Oh,
too?
yeah. Yep. I always refer to it as her or, you know, she. It's a girl. It's my girl. And I'm very proud of it. I did a lot of work on it, and I'll tell anybody that.
There are other differences between us. Carol is a restorer, putting her machines into mint condition, while I'm just a repairer, content simply to get a ruined engine running again. I'm a mechanic. Carol is an artist. What's more, all her tractors run. Carol, what did that tractor look like when you first got it?
No, this is the first day right when we brought it home. Basically, we bought it sight unseen. And when I got it, we went up to Yuma, Colorado to get it. And when we got there and I seen it, I almost cried. Because it had a big hole in the block. The tires were coming off of it. It was bad. It was really bad. And my husband said, we can do it, so we brought her home.
Carol and her husband Robert work side by side. He on his machines, she on hers, sometimes both on one particularly difficult challenge. Robert isn't threatened by his wife's reputation as a grease monkey. It's not unusual to see a family out these days polishing up their BMW, but it's a little unusual to see a family out polishing up their tractors, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's so unusual or not. We enjoy doing it, and we try and include the children in about anything that we do, you know, and they...
But this is essentially your tractor, and this one over here is Carol's.
The Carol's, yeah.
Now, is there a rivalry going on between the two?
Oh,
I can start mine better.
yeah. Her starts easier and everything than mine, but I wouldn't say there's really a rival. Well, yeah, sometimes there probably gets to be a rivalry.
But this is more than just a good practical tractor. I see the earrings. There's something here in the way of something much more going on than a good practical machine.
Well, I want everybody to know that I'm into it. I like my tractor. I'll wear the implement earrings or whatever you want to call them to show everybody that I like tractors. And I get a lot of comments on them, and a lot of people ask me, well, what do they mean? You know, because a lot of people don't know what the AC Diamond stands for. And so you can tell them, well, Alice Chalmers, it's a tractor. And I say, well, do you have a tractor? Yeah, I've got 3 of them.
Sounds awful good. It really does. I love that throaty growl on those things. Oh, I guess I can put fingerprints on your fender.
That's fine.
Well, that sounds good. I wish mine sounded that good.
Well, I got a lot of flack off of people, the dents in the fenders. They said, why didn't you pound them out? Well, each dent, to me, has a story to tell, and it's just the life of the tractor.
How much would you sell it for?
It's not for sale. It's not for sale. It's something that I put a lot of effort into and went a long ways to get it. I'll have it for a long time.
When Postcards from Nebraska returns,
The site was originally discovered early in this century, but it was not taken seriously until Dave rediscovered the tracks of camels, pigs, and rhinoceroses. Now it's considered one of the major finds in North America.
This is one of the places that, if you're studying land mammals in North America, Toadstool Park, the Badlands at Douglas, and the Big Badlands in Wyoming, this is your checklist.
Today, these rugged badlands of northwest Nebraska are crossed by railroad tracks and tire tracks, cattle trails and antelope trails. But 30 million years ago, those tracks and trails were made by creatures we can imagine only in our wildest and worst dreams.
There are small camels, rhinoceros. There are 3 or 4 species that we've recognized here. Some pigs that They're roughly cow-sized. And then we have the ones that aren't hooved, and they tend to be the carnivores.
How long a trail do you think you found to this point?
It might actually cover 10 kilometers, but right now we're...
David Nixon is a paleontologist with the University of Nebraska, in charge of this site known as Toadstool Park, the name it gets from its bizarre rock formations.
This is where the Great Plains started, so the discovery of these areas changed the history of paleontology, and what we know of the land mammals we've learned in these places. And this is one of the hot spots.
So Dave, what was this before it hardened?
This was a stream bed, mud, sand.
Like a stream bed today?
Yeah. And they were walking on the wet surface. First we had individual tracks, and we were interested in just identifying the animals, but now we've pieced it together, who walked on whose tracks and so on. It looks like a migration because most of the tracks all go downstream. So they're all going in the same direction, they're walking 2-3 abreast.
The site was originally discovered early in this century, but it was not taken seriously until Dave rediscovered the tracks of camels, pigs, and rhinoceroses. Now it's considered one of the major finds in North America. What is it we're looking at?
Well, the only candidate this size that's even-toed that we can come up with is a large pig. And of course, these are cow-sized tracks.
Good-sized pig.
So it was a...
And here, there's bird tracks and worm castings?
Yeah, we have web-footed birds, shorebirds, some songbirds. We have some faint crane tracks that we just have to be here at the right time to see. When we first presented this, there was a moment or two of disbelief. Everybody said, "What tracks? I've been there." Now it's pretty well established that these are indeed trackways. The interpretation may be open yet, but the extent of the tracks is one of the longest for this time period in North America, which is pretty amazing. We're going to try enhancing the tracks. Let's pick one that's pretty visible, like this one. There, that's one nice track.
What kind of track is that?
It's three-toed. We have a rhinoceros that's walking along.
And this is just one individual just ambling
Thump, thump, thump.
in that direction?
Yeah. And that turns out it's downstream. And of course, if you extend the trail and look over there, these slabs have dropped. You can see the trail showing up very well going up the slab over there.
Isn't that a trail right there, and that slab that's hanging down? It looks like you can see footprints from here.
Yep.
This is kind of like hunting too, except you're hunting something that's 30 million years old.
I don't expect them to find them at the end of this trail. But like I say, after a rainstorm or something, when they're partially filled and each track's a puddle, it looks just like a modern set of tracks. It's pretty immediate then. And it's not yesterday. It's not a cold trail. You look at it and it looks pretty modern and living.
I find some philosophical, even romantic content to these unprepossessing indentations in Nebraska's soft rock. Sure, there's the wonder of creatures millions of years ago, terrifying, mysterious, curious. I can't help but wonder what will be left of us thousands of years from now. But millions of years? What then? Perhaps we'll be lucky enough to leave a footprint in the sand to show we were here. We human beings who once walked the Badlands of northwest Nebraska.
Still to come on Postcards from Nebraska.
Most of her customers are so far apart, they receive mail only every other day. She drives hundreds of miles a week and part on roads that are hers alone. 2 ruts through the grass, the mail road, traveled by no one but Peggy Marsh.
I've just always known the roads, and they're so much better, even though they seem bad to you. It's an incredible change from what I remember when I was a kid.
Peggy Marsh carries mail to ranches in the Nebraska Sandhills. Her grandfather carried the mail on this route, and her father.
A lot of the older ones that are still on the route have known me, you know, since I was a little girl and used to come around with my dad once in a while. So I've known a lot of these people forever.
In these days of economic belt-tightening, small towns like Mullen, Nebraska sometimes have to struggle to hang on to their post office. The post office, well, I was going to say that the post office is the cement that holds a community together, but actually, it's not so much the post office as it is the people of the post office.
You think I ought to give that to Marvin?
Mail carriers like Peggy Marsh.
Me too.
Today, as well as sorting and delivering the day's letters, packages, catalogs, and bills, she's also training her daughter, Jerry Edis.
Yep. Now we're ready to roll.
Into Cherry County, the largest county in the United States. In the Nebraska Sandhills, the largest sand dune area in this hemisphere. Cloaked in lush green grasses and vivid flowers today because of unusual summer rains.
See a lot of deer and antelope and coyotes go right, not that they're a threat and would wreck you like a deer would. I've never hit one, but I mean, my husband has. At night, they're worse. They jump right out in front of you, your headlights, but you still need to watch in the daytime. There's a lot of deer around.
Peggy's family homesteaded in this remarkable landscape. They were pioneers, claiming government lands early in this century by demonstrating that they were able to live on the land, or in some cases, even prosper. Do you ever get bored by the countryside after all the times you've passed over it?
No, it changes about every other day, and that's how often I go by the same road.
Most of her customers are so far apart, they receive mail only every other day. She drives hundreds of miles a week, in part on roads that are hers alone. 2 ruts through the grass, the mail road, traveled by no one but Peggy Marsh. Is that somebody you know?
Yeah, that's a first cousin of mine. Lives over the hill, about a mile or so from our place.
Do you know most of the people on this route?
Almost everybody. If I don't know them when they move in, I know them pretty soon.
In some cases, you're probably the main contact with the outside world.
Probably.
So, are these people more than friends to you?
Oh, yeah.
Where are the cops?
Yeah. Your mom's not in there, huh?
No, she's in Kentucky.
In Kentucky? What's going on in Kentucky?
Crystal had a national BB gun shoot.
Crystal does that too?
Yep.
Oh my goodness, great. So Linda's here for a while?
Yeah.
I assume she was since there was medicine coming. Okay, we'll see you. Thank you. Chuck? Ariana? Mail?
There are places like the Sandhills where the mail is still a lifeline and a remarkable bargain, delivered not by official postal employees, but by home contractors, independent bidders like Peggy Marsh, sometimes not seeing a single one of her customers in a day's driving, and maybe only a couple of human beings altogether.
So your mail's laying on a chair in the porch.
Okay.
There's a CD in there anyway that
You probably didn't want in the box all day, so. Okay.
Are you ever afraid out here?
No, if I was, I'd probably carry a cellular. People think I should get one. No, every once in a while in the winter when we've had bad storms, my husband will ride with me. I tell him he has to ride shovel instead of shotgun.
In the cities, I know that mailmen have to worry about nasty dogs and nasty kids, but you must have a completely different set of hazards out here.
Oh, you get a bullfight on the road once in a while, and I don't want to get my Jeep too close to that for fear of getting dented, so I kind of give them a little breadth when they're fighting in the road, or honk till they get out of the way.
Do you have a favorite time of the year for driving these roads?
I think I'd have to say spring. It's a lot more fun to watch the hills green up and the flowers and things come out than it is. It's a little sad to me in the fall when it's getting close to winter and everything starts browning. And I can't say that snow would be my favorite because that does create driving problems.
Out here, there aren't a lot of complaints about the mail coming late, or only once a day, or being too expensive. Here, far from cable television, even telephone lines, any news is good news. And the news still comes first of all, best of all, by way of mail carriers like Peggy Marsh, zip code 69152 in the Nebraska Sandhills north of Mullen.